When I was younger, me and my brothers used to play a game called the jumping game. This game, basically the goal of this game was to jump the furthest, and whoever jumped the furthest would win a prize. So I decided, being the competitive person that I am, that I would mimic what a frog would do, and by mimicking what a frog would do, I would be able to win every time we played this game. But a very important thing that I didn't realize is that God and biology didn't bless me with the hind legs of a frog. So my experiment failed miserably. But it started something very interesting, which was the relationship between me and nature, and what nature actually had to offer and what I could learn from. Because I was always interested in what nature had to do and how things worked. Creatures, microbes, animals, different species don't actually speak the same language, but they do come together to achieve a goal. It's as if nature has a real-time crisis management team. And that crisis management team works on the ground, throughout the day, ever evolving itself and trying to find solutions then and there. And the more I surrounded myself with nature, the more I felt that I could learn so much from what was around me. It's as if these tiny microbes and animals and creatures were the engineers, and after years and years of evolution and time, what we are left with is the actual secret to survival and success. Biomimicry as a concept talks about this idea and says that if we take nature's time-tested patterns and applied them to our human problems and our human challenges, we would find a solution. And that solution was something that was adaptable and sustainable. And by emulating that, we would probably succeed in our evolutionary patterns. So with that came the fact that biomimicry, what could we learn from the idea of biomimicry? Nature as a soil, as a ecosystem, led to the development of many things that work together, like the trees and like the plants and like various other items that appear right now in our world. One of the most important things in nature is the fact that we don't actually we do credit ourselves with things that we are not the first to do, such as building, such as optimizing space, and even collaboration. If we take a look at these things and what we could learn, the way our society works right now is we are sharing much more than we used to. And working alone, or the concept of working alone and developing an idea by ourselves, is very obsolete and is no longer an option. This is apparent in many of the user-generated content that we have integrated in our daily lives. Platforms such as YouTube, Kickstarter, and Snapchat. With YouTube, you have over 1 billion people sharing and connecting every day and communicating their thoughts through video. With Kickstarter, you have 100,000 successfully pledged projects that wouldn't have seen the light of day, and more than $2 billion that have been pledged to various other ideas that would have not been concepts had it not have been for this platform, as well as Snapchat. So Snapchat is something I use on a daily basis, and Snapchat has 100 million users right now, sharing over 6 billion videos in 24 hours. So this proves to us that working alone is no longer an option, and the idea of collaboration has come to the forefront of innovation itself. Innovation and collaboration weren't friends previously. Collaboration was thought of as negative because the more you collaborated, the more you could lead to convergent thinking. And this idea of convergent thinking led to group thinking. And group thinking did not celebrate the individualism of an idea or of a thought. But although this has some truth to it, what we do think is, or how we overcome this is by three main important ideals that collaboration provides: association, speed, and connection. So with associations, the more you collaborate, the more you create associations, the more you share, the more likely it is for you to develop happy configurations. And these happy configurations lead to innovative thinking and an innovative process. Speed is the highest competitive advantage to innovation. So when you get together and when you share and collaborate, speed becomes something of an advantage to you because you can push an idea forward in a much faster pace the faster you iterate it. And last but not least, we have connections. The more you collaborate, the more you connect. The more you connect, the more you build a network. The more you build a network, the easier it is for you to push out an idea into some fertilized soil, I would say, of thought that would have not been there if you had not collaborated together. So collaboration as a concept has married itself to innovation, and it has led to a greater type of innovation in this day and age that we have. So if we take a look at nature and how nature has a relationship with that and the way we perceive collaboration within nature, there has been a paradigm shift of thought, because we used to look at nature as taking from nature and giving to nature, and what we currently have is more of a shift to the concept of mutualism. Mutualism, where each species benefits from one another. And this idea of mutualism is very evident in, if we take a look at Darwin, who first coined the idea of survival of the fittest with nature. If you take a look at his book, Darwin mentions survival of the fittest twice, but he talks about love in nature 95 times, which shows us, or which proves to us, that collaboration and cooperation in nature is probably one of its fundamental operating systems. And now nature is, or collaboration is no longer something of an added value or a strategy. It has become a necessity for business survival. And if we take a look at how we communicate and how animals or nature communicates within itself, you have two very interesting ideals. We communicate and connect the same way, and we also group together to achieve a certain goal as a unit rather than separately. And with this concept, what if we took a look at innovation and what nature has been doing for thousands and thousands of years and applied it to the innovation process? Biomimicry has been evident in product development and has made an impact there. So one of the first documented instances of biomimicry and product development is Velcro. George de Mestral, an engineer in Switzerland, used to take his dog for a walk, and when he did take his dog for a walk and came back, he realized that there were burdock burrs that were attached to this dog and to his socks. By removing the burdock and placing it under a microscope, he realized that there was a very interesting hooking system that the burdock burr would do to attach itself and detach itself from the object that it was interacting with. And after years and years of experimentation, in 1952, Velcro was born, something that was integrated in our lives, and we honestly take for granted. Another example would be the bullet train and the kingfisher. The bullet train, when it first was launched, was a very innovative product. However, when it passed through tunnels at the speed that it was passing through, a sonic boom would occur. And this sonic boom was very uncomfortable for the rider to experience. So Eiji Nakatsu, an engineer in Japan in 1990, decided to take a look at the kingfisher and the way the kingfisher hunted its prey. It would dip its beak into the water undisturbed and searched for the fish itself, and once it removed itself from the water, again, it would be a very smooth transition. So Eiji, our engineer in Japan, decided that he would redesign the front of the bullet train to mimic the kingfisher. And once he did that, not only did he reduce the noise, but it led to a smoother ride and even an even faster one. And last but not least, we have the tardigrades and live vaccines. So for those of you who don't know what tardigrades are, they're millimeter cousins of insects. These little cousins are very smart. They could retain their DNA by merely drying themselves up, and they could last up to 120 years and reanimate themselves after those many years by introducing water to themselves. So what Biomatrica did was take that concept and apply it to live vaccines. The issue with live vaccines was that once they transported the live vaccine, 50% of those vaccines would be destroyed in the just in the transport of them. So by applying this shrink wrap effect to the live vaccines, not only were they retained, but the live vaccines could reach subtropical areas and developing countries, and also resist the temperatures, the higher temperatures that they were exposed to. So these are very interesting examples of biomimicry and product development. But what if we applied the same concepts to innovation and idea development? And this is where I'd like to introduce you to two of my friends in nature. One of them being, if there is something that I want you to take away from this talk, is that please, please communicate like a hyena. Hyenas are very smart with the way they communicate and the method of communications that they have. The reason they're smart is that their main aim is to drive away a lion from its catch so that they can actually eat it. So they want to do less work and achieve much more. By developing roles for themselves, so what hyenas do is that they take that concept and they assign each other, this pack, certain roles. And by developing these roles, they could actually organize themselves in a way to achieve this. Not only that, but they recognize and deliver important information. There is a special hyena in the pack called the flag-bearer hyena. This flag-bearer hyena was used to communicate important information, to direct the hyenas at certain points, because they were either, some of them were much closer or much further away from the lion. This is something that was very essential to the success of their lunch or dinner. So, and the last thing that they do is that hyenas are very transparent and visible in their method of communication. They realize, they recognize what's going on, and they are transparent to one another so that they know what's happening and at what time, and coordinate themselves to get to the goal that they need to get to. Another favorite of mine is the bee. Bees are very smart. Bees recognize each other's strength and assign roles not only based on these strengths, but based on their age as well. And their whole goal is to provide a sustainable ecosystem so that they can thrive, so that they can produce more honey and protect their hive. And three ways how they do this is they create a healthy environment for themselves. And by that, I mean that once they get together, foraging honeybees are very, very tasked with foraging for honey. And let's say all of the honeybees decided that, you know, I don't want to work anymore as a honeybee and I just want to sit in my hive. The bees in the hive themselves could sustain themselves for various years if they were not to forage, and on the reserves that they actually have. Not only that, but they would huddle in a certain way during the winter time to sustain the hive as well. So they were working for a greater good and a greater goal, and recognized that and believed in it. Another way is that they organized themselves in a way that is very adaptable and sustainable within the hive. So everyone had a role, everyone would organize themselves to achieve that role, and everyone recognized each other's place within the hive. The last thing, which is quite interesting for me, is that bees escalate a problem. So when a bee stings you, although it dies instantly, the venom lets out a certain alarm to the rest of the hive, letting them know that there could be a predator that's going to attack the hive. And once they hear or they see or feel this alarm, they assemble together and go out of the hive to protect it. And with this escalation, it's the realization that you need to understand and be aware of what's going on around you. So if this was applied to the innovation process, I think it would lead to a much more efficient way of thinking and developing ideas. And adopting and spreading nature-inspired solutions, to me, catalyzes a new era in business and a new era in design. And if we took that and we applied it onto ourselves and the innovation daily process that we do, we can see that asking nature's advice on a daily basis will definitely lead to a much positive, more sustainable and efficient system. Because we tend to forget that after we're gone, the earth still lives on, and the earth does not end with our deaths. And retaining and developing an ecosystem that is sustainable for the people that are going to be inhabiting the earth after us is something that we are tasked and responsible to do. So develop processes and policies and products that go beyond ourselves and develop an ecosystem that goes beyond what we are here and how we're doing this together as one, and create a cohesive unit. And with that, I think we will understand how we can emulate nature and work with it and collaborate with it for a better tomorrow. Thank you.